What's going on, Dark Avenger Nation, and welcome back to another episode of the Dark Avenger Comic Book Review, the show where each and every episode I share my thoughts on books I read in the previous week, and there were books all across the spectrum this past week, so I'm going to waste no time, and we're going to get into these 13 books that were released. 13, my lucky number. I love the number 13. But they were released on July 8th, 2020. The books are back, thank God. So we're going to start off with the book that actually disappointed me the most this week, and that is Justice League issue number 48. New creative team, new story. And I was bored. And honestly, I think halfway through the book I was already deciding I was done. Justice League has been a book that has been up, down, back up again, and now if this is the direction we're going with Justice League again, I love the art in this book. That's the one shining star I feel in this issue was the art. The art was amazing. However, the story didn't grab me. So the Justice League catch a distress call and they go after it, and Wonder Woman, out of character, is kind of like not wanting to do a lot of things in this book, but they end up answering the distress call, and it's the ship that's being attacked by this giant space monster. They save the ship. The ship has all these children in it. They bring the children home, and we find out that as they're bringing them home, that this world is in a civil war. There are people who believe in the cell, and then people who believe in the spark. I don't know how I remembered that, but I did. And the leader, the almighty queen who can decide if people die, whatever, she is with the spark and the cells. It was just, you end up not caring, let me put it that way, because the Justice League show up. The queen is about to be assassinated. They save her. Apparently this world is in a gigantic civil war, but they see the Justice League now, and they see superheroes, and they're like, oh, they are beings, they are gods from the sky, so they want to make them their leader. And it was so weird, because the Justice League was divided. Half of them are like, we can't just leave them like this, and then the other half is like, well, we could set them on a path and then move on. Now that's the logical one. That's the one time Wonder Woman actually was correct. They can't be rulers, and it's just, why is this story important for Justice League? Why is this by the end of this issue, there was an attack, the Justice League get caught in the middle of it, and there's an explosion. Why do I care about this arc, though? Why do I care about this story? What does this really have anything to do with Justice League? Now, I know, there's a 3-part story. They released Justice League, or at least they used to release Justice League twice a month. So, literally, it will be over by the beginning of August. But why? Now, as a reader, why do I care about this arc? I know that series have those, like, filler arcs or whatever, but Justice League has been so all over the place. Rob Venditti finally made Justice League an enjoyment to read again, and I feel like this team should have taken that momentum and really went far with it. And here we are in a space story, though, with a civil war, where the Justice League's kind of divided, which makes the last arc with the Spectre really feel less impactful than it did during the arc. I don't know where I stand with Justice League. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm probably going to end up letting Justice League go. I cannot be on this roller coaster of good and then bad and then good again and then bad. Justice League has been struggling. The Scott Snyder run, which went on for a very long time, which connected to several events. The Year of the Villain was a year, so it's long. We're already in issue 48, and out of the 48 issues, I feel like 10 of them, maybe being gracious and saying 15, I enjoyed. Otherwise, this series has let me down, so I think Justice League and I are going to go separate ways for a while. That's how I feel, and I spent a lot of time talking about this, so we're going to move on. Old Haunts issue number 2. This I actually stayed the exact same with. So the whole supernatural thing we got at the end of the last issue, well, we don't really get to see much more of that in this issue. This issue, we get a flashback that started the entire issue off where Primo was doing a job because there was this guy who had loose lips and he ends up ending him. It plays a part towards the end of the issue, but again, we go right back in where, because of the events that happened in the last issue, they didn't meet up with this guy. Now he's getting nervous. Now the FBI wants information. Apparently the FBI has found out about these guys, or knew of what was going on in Vegas. So they had the pieces, but they couldn't put the puzzle together. And they reach out to the same guy that these three are working for and strike a deal with him to finally catch these three guys who've murdered a lot of people. What happens is Primo, towards the end of the book, ends up having a bit of a, I guess again, this is teasing the aspect of the people they killed in the past coming back to haunt them. They went to meet up with the boss. He wasn't there. It turned out one of his agents was there instead, and Primo kind of all of a sudden snaps because he sees somebody he murdered in the past. It was the same guy from the beginning of the book, and he literally lets loose on this guy, and I don't know if he murders him, but he puts him out. He puts him out hard. And that's where issue 2 kind of leaves off. I'm still very interested in Old Haunts. I want to know what's going on, and I know we still have a long way to go. I just feel like I'm still in the same place with Old Haunts. I'm enjoying it, definitely middle ground, but I want that little oomph to make me be like, yes, this is why I love this book. Kind of like the next book, Archangel 8, issue number 3. I love this book. This is part of my top 5 favorite books out of AWA right now. This book just delivers each and every issue. So at the end of the last issue, Archangel was really questioned. The target that he has makes him think now. So he goes back to the person who gave him the job, and he kind of starts to question a little bit, why this, why that, why the other thing. He's like, you're a soldier. This is your job. You haven't met up with the person you're supposed to protect yet. You still have this other guy who's toying around with him. Get the job done. And that's kind of what happens in this issue. Finally, Archangel puts his feet in the ground and actually finally meets up with the person he's supposed to protect. He finally gets an audience with him and convinces him that he's there to protect him. So now they're going through all the information, trying to figure out why all these little targets, because this person could have killed him like that. Instead, he's taking away all the things important to him. So they have this big meeting, and finally he figures out where he can possibly catch this guy. And he goes, it turns out the woman is the one that is doing the job. So he catches her, and he wants information from her. She's not giving it. But she does start to convince him again, question what's going on a little bit. Do you really want to protect this guy? And he doesn't, because this guy he's a jerk. That's to put it very lightly. And I love that he's still questioning it. There was another incident, and in this incident, there's a card that's left. And now he's starting to say, okay, I'm starting to read you loud and clear. What does that mean? Does that mean that he sees what's happening and he's going to go after him? Or he sees what he's doing and now he's going to start questioning it more? I don't know, but I really do love Archangel. I think the artwork really shined in this issue. I know it's the same art that we've had in the previous two, but for some reason this issue I truly enjoyed a lot, and the artwork just shined even more. Archangel has been an enjoyment, and there are still 2 more issues to go. I'm really excited to see where this book goes. Is he going to side with the other 2, or is he going to finish his mission? It's very interesting and definitely something I recommend. X-Force, issue number 10. Oh, thank you, God, finally. I did catch up. I did actually go back and reread the previous 2 issues. So this issue, Wolverine, Domino, and Kid Omega end up getting captured by this plant life. And we find out thanks to Jean, who invaded Beast's mind without, and this again reminds me so much of the Bendis run a little bit, but you know what, Jean had every right to, who invades Beast's mind and finds out, wait a minute, you didn't give the full details, and Beast knew more than he let on with the team, and it leads into a huge argument between them. She ends up going with Black Tom and Sage. They, all 3 of them go. Wolverine's team is really, they're not doing well. Domino gets captured. Kid Omega, I think, ends up being killed. Obviously, they'll resurrect him. Thank you, Krakoa. Wolverine's about to be engulfed by this vegetation. And Jean, Sage, and Black Tom are able to attack this, because it turns out it's a bioweapon that Beast had set up. They're able to attack it and basically have it destroy itself in a way. So she ends up saving X-Force. However, I don't know if this is really a spoiler. You know what, JD? You could put spoiler just to be safe. But the ending, I love it. See, I never really liked Jean and Scott, especially after everything Scott's done. But at the same time, you know, I was happy that Scott was getting away from Emma. But anyway, the end of the issue has Wolverine and Jean enjoying a moment together in the hot tub, and she basically tells him, I quit X-Force. Because she's too good for X-Force. And I love how Jean's like, well, if you think I'm too good for X-Force, then you must think I'm too good for you. And Wolverine, of course, like, yeah, of course I do. But sometimes you need a little bit of bad in your life, you know, a little bit to keep you balanced. And again, it's so weird because Jean is always with Scott, but now with everything going on with X-Men and Utopia, everybody is with everybody else. So this is going to lead to an interesting dilemma when this whole party ends and things just go back to normal, because eventually we all know that's going to happen. How long, I don't know, but it's going to be interesting to see where Jean lies between Cyclops and Wolverine. And I would not be against a Jean Wolverine, you know, romance for however long. I like Jean and Wolverine together. Wolverine's always had a heart for Jean. I would love to see that exercise a little more. We'll fly in my room. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but this was a good issue. I really enjoyed it, and I guess next issue we get a new arc, so awesome stuff. Young Justice, issue number 16. So we finally find out what happened to Bart after Superboy chased him around for a bit, because Bart was kind of avoiding the question of what he saw. And finally, he ends up coming back to Connor. And of course, Connor asks this police officer, there's an incident that happens in the book, but he goes to him and says, you know who I am though, right? Still, no one knows in the DC universe. They don't remember Superboy. Why? Because Superboy was not part of Dr. Manhattan's reboot. Well, he was. I mean, we did have a Superboy story. We did. But it was something completely different. And now, because Superboy was pulled out of the universe, or that's what we're led to believe, first arc of Young Justice, because he was pulled out, no one remembers Superboy. Even the New 52 Superboy is forgotten about. So no one knows who Superboy is, and he's frustrated. And then Bart faints. He ends up he just crashes, and we don't know why. And then he explains, like Superboy in a way, he was trapped somewhere else when the reboot happened. And then he got out, he got free from his prison. You want to know how he got prison, where he got prison, read the issue. And same thing, the world was different, and he didn't know why. And they showed him running and the evolution of his costume, where he started off as Impulse, Kid Flash, and then somehow ended up back as Impulse. But he's running around. He broke the rules, as he said. Spoiler alert. So he finally broke the rules and decided to run through the multiverse to try to find Young Justice, because he knew if he found Young Justice, he'd find his home. And finally, you know, the fight happened, Doomsday Clock happened, and things started to go back to normal. And he found Connor and Young Justice, and everything's better now. But it's not, because there's still problems. There's still holes in the universe left by Dr. Manhattan. So while the universe has been fixed, there are still minor plot holes that need to be dealt with. And this was done really well up until the very end of the issue, when Tim shows up and Impulse says Drake, and you see the costume, and it's like, you remember right away why you don't like Young Justice right now. I'm sorry, I don't like Drake. Tim earned the right to call himself Red Robin, and Drake is just, I mean, the DC universe people must be real dumb not to realize, oh, Drake, it's Tim Drake. I really hope that that little aspect ends up getting, there's like a story where he goes back to being Red Robin, because Drake just, again, moments like this where a writer tries to make a mark before he leaves a book. This is his mark for Young Justice, and I don't like it. And that reminds me why this series I'm so touch and go with, because I don't like it. But anyway, Drake shows up. and they decide they're going to meet with the Justice League now. And will Superman meeting Superboy kickstart something like it did during the Superman arc? I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. But I am interested in seeing Connor meeting Superman again. So I will be back for the next issue. I said this was decided. Again, other than the Drake thing, and again, that's something I didn't agree with, and that's been in motion for a while. I am interested in seeing what the next issue has in store for Connor, the re-meeting of Connor and Clark. Will Clark remember, won't he? I'm very excited to see what happens next. The Flash, issue number 757. Let's keep it in speedster territory. So, in the last issue, Zoom got a reverse Flash family together. And you've got Barry, who is now waiting and trying to see what Zoom is going to do. And there's this person, this young boy the case is closed already, but his father is sent to the death penalty because his wife was killed and he admitted to the murder. But Barry didn't believe it. And he went to this kid's house. He went to their house and did a scan. And Zoom was involved. And that's when all hell starts to break loose. First, the Turtle shows up at headquarters. Then Trickster shows up at his house. Grodd shows up at the Flash Museum. And Captain Cold shows up. And all these attacks are going on all throughout Central City. And he freaks out. And he saves his family and brings them out of the city so they don't get attacked by Zoom. Iris is definitely, and again, this is why you see the New 52 wasn't working out for Flash. Because Iris is definitely his grounding. And she says, Barry, you gotta run. Start saving the day. And he runs off. And that's where it's to be continued. This is good. I enjoyed this issue a lot. I like the artwork. I like the story. I love how this is all setting up to its grand finale. And it was an enjoyable read. I really am enjoying Flash a lot. Okay, Stealth, issue number 3. I love this issue because the son took the suit away, but the father found a way to get it back. The son locked this suit away somewhere really, really safe. I'm not going to spoil where. I've done enough spoilers. I said I've given you guys a lot of spoilers on a few DC books and Marvel books, so I'm leaving this one. You got to read this. So the father does end up getting his suit back, but you have this other guy who is setting things up that Stealth is losing his mind, and he's trying to turn the people against Stealth, the people of Detroit against Stealth. And now you got the son who's trying to find a cure for his father, but he can't. And then he gets a call about, well, I can't say because then you'll know where his suit was hidden, but he gets a call that it went missing. And the father's now in his stealth costume again, and he's looking through some files or whatnot because he wants to remember him. He wants to know what's wrong with him himself, and the father wants to do it himself. However, we're left with a very deep cliffhanger at the end of this. Oh, if you haven't read Stealth yet, the arts, the story, I'm really curious now if by the end of this miniseries, because there's only 2 issues left, if he's going to get his memories back, if he's going to beat Alzheimer's, is the son going to be able to save him? Will the son become the next Stealth? I'm very curious to see where the whole thing goes. We have 2 Batman books. We got Batman and Detective Comics this week, but we're going to start off with Batman 94. Both of these books are the beginning of the Joker War. Batman 94, it's the end of the designer arc. We actually find out that Bruce reached out to the designer when he was in that phase before he became Batman, when he was in that learning phase where he wanted to learn as much as he could. And he did meet up with the guy who was the designer before he became the designer. And he taught Bruce the greatest lesson of all. Well, that's what we're led to believe, and that's how to lose. The Joker ends up getting everything. And now Bruce Wayne is wanted because everybody wants to know how the Joker got all of Bruce Wayne's money. They think that Bruce did it. Bruce loses everything. Selina ends up in a hospital bed because of what happened in the previous issue and is actually stolen away by the other villains of Gotham, who are basically, as Penguin puts it, sitting this one out because they know that the Joker is no longer playing around. He wants to end Batman. He's had his fun. It's been back and forth for years, but now he wants to end it, and they know there's going to be... Gotham is going to pay for it. And they are sitting it out. And as a matter of fact, when Deathstroke is leaving, he says, I just want to look at Gotham one last time because it's never going to be the same. All of this is going to be gone. This is the last time we're going to see it. And he is beaten, and really Batman is destroyed in this book. But in the end of the book, this was my favorite ending out of the two books. He's talking to himself, but he's asking for like he's talking to somebody. You don't know who until the very end, but he's asking for a sign. What do I do? Give me a sign. I've never asked this, but give me a sign. And you have this crack of lightning. And he's like, okay, Alfred, I'll be a better bat. And that's where the book leaves off. We are now going into the Joker War. Also, there are a lot of characters in a lot of precarious positions by the end of this book. Crazy. I'm really excited because also mentioned recently is that Grifter is going to be brought in to Batman. I don't know if it's because of ramifications of the Joker War or during the Joker War, but we are going to be seeing Grifter in Batman at some point. I'm very excited because I love Grifter. He's one of my favorite characters from the Wildstorm universe. And apparently, even though Dr. Manhattan undid a lot, I guess certain Wildstorm characters are still in the DC universe. Maybe there is no Wildstorm, and they just kept Wildstorm in DC, but they put DC back to a norm. But what is norm? So I'm really excited for Grifter to show up. But let's go into Detective Comics 1023. So in this issue, Two-Face was the previous arc. Now you've got the Joker who is trying to wake up the Court of Owls and is successful. So now the Joker has the Court of Owls on his side. But Batman is trying to find Two-Face, and I don't know if there were references, but I believe this does take place after Batman 94 because a lot is lost, but the only difference here is Batman had a lot of injuries in Batman 94. He didn't have them here. That's the only reason why I'm kind of like, again, when you have two stories or two books that are following the same story, but they're telling their own stories at the same time, makes it very, very hard. But Batman is chasing after Two-Face and finds Two-Face. He is now in, if you remember Jim Gordon becoming Batman for a time, Two-Face is in that Batman armor. And his brain is all scrambled because of the Joker. But Batman finds a way to save him. However, in trying to save Two-Face, I don't know if Two-Face is 100% fixed in the brain because of what Joker did. But that's when the Court of Owls strikes. And that's where this book is left off. Now, here's my issue. You have Batman versus the Court of Owls in Detective. You have Batman who is possibly going to be facing the Joker in Batman. Where do these two books fit in storyline-wise, like timeline-wise in this story? Because they're in two different places. Like I said, one book, Batman is really injured. The other one, this one, he's not in those injuries yet. Yet the ramifications of what happened in 94 and 93 are felt in this detective book. Little plot holes, and I see it already happening, and that's the one downside. It should be truly one story that spans these two Bat books, at least for the Joker War, because you have two different stories going on while the same big events going on. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but out of these two books, I really did enjoy Batman. Detective Comics, let's see with the Court of Owls return what that means. And also, we will be talking about other books as they come out. Batwoman is going to be slowly getting into the Joker War. We're already talking about Nightwing. And I don't know if any other Bat books are going to be showing up in the Joker War or if there'll be one-shots. But Batgirl, I will be talking about that book. I think the next issue actually is part of the Joker War. I will be covering that book. I'm excited because I really am curious if after the Joker War I'll be sticking around on Batgirl. But we'll talk about Batgirl when it's time. Until then, let's continue with Adventureman issue number 2. I love the first issue. It was a triple size. It was beautiful. Now we have Adventureman 2, where the mom has the book. Being the owner of the book, a lot of things start to change. She has dreams about this insect man. She is starting to question things within the book. And the son actually finds out, hey, Ma, you know how we never had an address for where they all were? Here's the address. And the mother is just like beside herself. She doesn't want to do it. She really doesn't. In the end, she ends up going and looking up that address. And I guess because she has the book, she sees things that no one else has ever seen, or no one is seeing, and that's the actual headquarters. And the cool thing is, as she's going into headquarters, she's remembering parts of the book, like how to activate the elevator, what's going on in the secret headquarters. And by the way, the ghost woman is there as well, but she ends up running off. Again, I think it's because she's being chased by those agents, possibly, or because they're still around. But the mother goes and searches throughout this headquarters. And it just cuts right to the end of the book. We don't know what she actually finds 100%. But I'm really interested because I'm still wondering, are they descendants of one of the superheroes? Was this book entrusted to them? Because the woman said, I laid the seeds for many people, and you're the first one that it actually sprouted. So the mother bit. What does that mean, though? Does that mean the adventure is going to continue, or what? They threw out another villain. I won't spoil it at the beginning of the book. Will we be seeing that person again because his greatest power is fear? And maybe if the people start to fear him again, he'll try to come back. I don't know. I'm really excited. This is really starting to build up. And Terry Dotson's artwork in this book, it reminds me why I love reading his books, or enjoying his art in several other books that he's done before. Loved the art in this book. It shined, and this story shines. Definitely check out Adventureman. It has been an enjoyment to read these first 2 issues. Death of Nancy Drew, issue number 2. So we find out that somebody's trying to kill Nancy, and she fakes her own death, but she actually got very lucky in how she could fake her own death, because apparently she had a friend in the car with her when the car went over the bridge. We found out that her car crashed over a bridge in the previous issue. Well, that friend ended up being faked as her, and she went undercover now to try to find out who wanted her dead. It makes sense, and this is what I talked about before. She wants to know who killed her and why, and find them and bring them to justice. And the reason she didn't enlist Joe is because Frank was closer by a half hour. And of course Joe is insulted by this, and now all 3 of them are part of the same mystery. And so they team up and they try to find information. And I love how Joe knew something that Frank didn't, and he was able to drop some information down on them. And now they're chasing leads to try to figure out who tried to kill Nancy. And they actually do chase down one lead, and let's just say at the end of the issue, it leaves them in a very, very precarious situation, because Nancy cannot be found out. And twice towards the end and at the end of this book, that threat of her being found out, that Nancy Drew is alive, is found. It happens. And I'm really curious how the next issue, and we'll talk about that when the next issue comes. I'm not going to talk about the ending of this issue, but it's going to be interesting to see how they all, not just Nancy, but all 3 of them, get out of the position they are in at the end of this issue. But I love that the artwork was great. Again, Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys. Dynamite. I really hope you guys capitalize and you really do more, because if this is what you're delivering with Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, love to have a Hardy Boys story. Love to have another Nancy Drew one. Love to have another crossover with all 3 of them. When I was a kid, I loved the Hardy Boys and I loved the Nancy Drew books. Those were probably the only books that I read outside of comic books, because I liked them. I enjoyed the mystery behind them. So to have them now as a comic book is the best of both worlds. I would love to see more. So Dynamite, if you're watching, first of all, thank you for watching. But if you are watching Dynamite, oh please keep this series going. Keep this franchise going with more series after this one, because I've been loving it. And it's only 2 issues in. Only 2 issues in. I'm very excited to see where this mystery goes and who wanted Nancy dead and why. All right, here we go. I hope you all are ready. Empyre Fantastic 4, issue number 0. Had absolutely nothing to do with Empyre until the very last page. They ended up in their spaceship. They were in space coming back to Earth. Their spaceship runs out of gas. They go to a like a Vegas kind of a place in space that the Grandmaster, if you know who the Grandmaster is, used to run. Now his sister is running it, and she's promoting this Kree versus Skrull war. And it's these two kids. And you all know how the Fantastic Four are with kids. They're watching this fight, and these kids are being programmed and whatnot. So they go in, and they save the kids. Though they try to save the kids. And this woman who is literally using them to make money and trying to entice the war to start up again, because the Kree and the Skrulls are actually at peace right now. There's some side stuff going on with the kids, which we will talk about momentarily. The Thing and the Human Torch try to stop the fight, but end up just getting dragged into it anyway. Meanwhile, the kids are at the casino part, and now they're trying to figure out how to save the kids and stop this woman, because obviously things are not going well, because even Mr. Fantastic, who's fighting this woman, sees that things are not going to go well, because this is her domain. This is her casino planet. So what are they going to do? So she goes and helps the kids basically win every single gamble they do. And it was crazy. I loved it. And wait a minute. Look at this panel. Look at this page. You see it? This was the part of the book where I had to stop. I had to stop. Okay, if you didn't see it, JD, I sent you the zoom in. Zoom in on that one panel. You know who that is? How did Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls end up in this Fantastic Four book, huh? Well, my mind, literally, you can't mistake this character. That is Mojo Jojo in a Fantastic Four book. That also, by the way, Franklin referenced Baby Yoda. So we had a Star Wars reference. We had a Powerpuff Girls character in the casinos. How the hell did Mojo Jojo get into space? Of course, you could always say that's just a cameo. It's not real. It's not really Mojo Jojo. That's Mojo Jojo. Look at that picture. Moving away from Mojo Jojo, and after I walked away and took a break after noticing that, come back. So in the end, the kids ended up getting all the money. They owned most of the casino because they won so much that they got all the money. In the end, they said, we'll give you all your money back in your casino, but we want the kids. Of course they do, because the FF is ever growing with kids that they bring into their family. So, of course, the woman agrees. So she releases their contracts, and they go with the Fantastic Four, and now they're going back home. This will play into Fantastic Four even after the Empyre event, I'm sure. Both characters are interesting. It's a first appearance. I mean, for these characters, I don't know if they're going to play major roles in Fantastic Four. I mean, we might lose them during Empyre. Who knows? But the only thing that attached this book to Empyre was the very last page, which is the exact same last page that we got in Avengers issue 0. Them showing up in the outskirts of Earth in space and ending up in the middle of the Armada. That's it. That's it. Once again, this book did not even slightly get me hyped for Empyre, because it had nothing to do with Empyre. This could have easily been Fantastic Four issue whatever, and that's all it felt like. I read another Fantastic Four issue. This hyped Empyre up 0. The last page that we got at the exact same last page in Avenger 0. So just like I predicted, Empyre issue number 1, the actual beginning of the event, will be what determines if I stick around for Empyre or not, because we haven't gotten Empyre yet. Avengers got the closest, where we actually got a little backstory on the Armada that's coming towards Earth. This book absolutely had nothing to do with it except for the children, because one of them's Kree and one of them is a Skrull. That's it. That is the only connection I could find for this book for Empyre. And that the Fantastic Four were out in space and coming towards Earth. That's it. That is the only connection this book has to Empyre so far. And Mojo Jojo was in the book! And let's not forget, Marvel's going to love me for doing this over and over again, but I don't care because it's true, and I'm going to call them out on this. Don't forget the giant checklist! Look at all those books! There's no way I'm going to be covering every single... There's no way I can. I read about 13 books a week. That is about 13 books a week coming out of Empyre. My advice, again, the event hasn't started yet. The best advice I can give for Empyre, after reading these 2 issue 0s, if you're interested in the event, try the main event out. As far as the tie-ins go, pick and choose your favorites. If you like the Fantastic Four, get the Fantastic Four ones. X-Men, X-Men. Spider-Man, Spider-Man. If you're a completionist, you've seen the checklist, right? That's a lot. But I mean, hey, there are people that will buy every single book. I know this already. So good luck to all of those of you that are reading it. But then again, there are a lot of people who collect the whole event because they're not reading as much as maybe what I'm reading or somebody else is reading. So good on you. Go for it. But I'll tell you all right now, there's no way I can read all those books. DCeased Dead Planet issue number 1. This is the last book on the review this week. I loved this first issue. So the remaining heroes that left Earth before all hell finally broke loose, ended up living on a planet far away from Earth and that universe. They are now receiving a distress call. I called it. I talked about this on Most Anticipated. Cyborg is leaving a distress call, and it's finally reached that planet, and it's calling for the Justice League. And now everybody's divided. Some of them want to go. Some of them don't. Most of them don't want to go. Lois doesn't really like that John's going. John doesn't want to be called Superman, by the way. He doesn't like it because that's his father's name. And I understand that. But I love how Lois is like, well, stop trying to earn it then. It's true. He is Superman. And in the book, though, everybody calls him John. So they end up going back to Earth. And it turns out that there is a quarantine that's going on now. The Green Lantern Corps have quarantined Earth and the Sun. Earth because of obviously the plague going on Earth. And the Sun because, and I love this because it leaves things wide open, Superman is still in the sun, eating the sun. Remember that, because I feel like we're going to see that again as the story progresses. Maybe. Let's move on, though. So they end up back on Earth. They find Cyborg, and they try to get some information out of him. Here's the connection, though, to the 3-part connecting story that we had. Wonder Woman shows up and attacks them. But John is able to decipher what Cyborg is saying. And one of the members that go to Earth, I'm not going to spoil whom. I've already given you all a lot of spoilers this week. They end up getting, what do you call it? They end up getting, shoot. Wow, the name left me a minute, JD. Hold on. Okay. They end up getting infected. And this sends another character over the edge. And that character goes to kill Wonder Woman because she can. She has this weapon that can do it. John, understanding what Cyborg said, though, tries to stop her from killing Wonder Woman because they find out that there's a cure. Number one, is John now infected too because he got in the way? Probably not, because obviously you're not going to infect the last Superman at the moment. But I'm wondering still, because of that last panel, we'll have to wait and find out. Is John infected or not? We'll find out in issue 2. But will they get the cure? Will they be able to save everyone? And does Superman play a part in any of this at all? Like John's father, Superman, will he end up showing up? Very curious to find out. And if anything, I'm curious to see with the Green Lantern Corps there. I'm wondering if this plague continues, though. Will it expand past if one of the Green Lanterns get infected and bring it back to Oa? They police the entire galaxies, all of the galaxies everywhere. Will it end up just starting to spread throughout the universes as well? I don't know. But this was an amazing first issue. Read it. Get this. I'm loving it so far. I can't wait for issue 2 already. I'm super excited for DCeased Dead Planet. And with that, that's it for this review, everybody. Feel free to leave in the comments below any of the thoughts you have on any of the books I talked about, any books I haven't talked about, likes, dislikes, agree, disagree. I'd love to hear from you. And also, I am going to throw this out there now. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, the second, or actually third, the next one is going to be coming out this Wednesday from Shooting Star Presses. So if you're not part of the newsletter, the link's in the description below. Subscribe to the newsletter because there's going to be some really awesome announcements within this newsletter. And with that, I guess there's nothing left to do except to cue the outro. Hey, did you enjoy that video? If you're new, consider clicking that subscribe button for more. Also, click that notification bell to be notified when live streams and videos are posted. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Come over to facebook.com and join the Dark Avenger Nation to continue the conversation beyond YouTube. Don't forget to check out my website, shootingstaruniverse.com, for all the content I do across the web. And for anything else, check the links in the description below. And as always, take care, keep reading, keep collecting, and I'll see you really soon in the next one.